Hello students, welcome back to my channel JK Biology. I am Jaidabi Khanbogi, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology. In this video, I am going to explain about reproductive isolation. We'll see the definition of the reproductive isolation. It is an isolating mechanism. It is an isolating mechanism that prevent members of two species from interbreeding and producing viable fertile offsprings. This is nothing but reproductive isolation. Isolation nothing but separation. That is, reproductive isolation is one of the isolating mechanism which prevent the interbreeding between the two species and production of the viable and fertile offsprings. And this reproductive isolation will block the gene flow between the species. This mechanism will block gene flow between species. Reproductive isolation will block the gene flow between the species, and this will limit the formation of hybrids. Hybrids are those offsprings which are produced from interspecific mating. There are many barriers are involved in this reproductive isolation. Most of the barriers evolve during the speciation. Most barriers of reproductive isolation, they evolve during speciation. Most of the barriers which are involved in the reproductive isolation, they evolve during the speciation. Speciation is nothing but the formation of new species, the process of formation of new species. And the barriers include these barriers, the barriers which are involved in the reproductive isolation. They include mechanical, chemical, behavioral, and ecological traits. The barriers which are involved in the reproductive isolation involve mechanical, chemical, behavioral, and ecological traits. This is about the definition and introduction of the reproductive isolation. Now we'll see the different types of this reproductive isolation. The types. These reproductive isolating mechanisms can be classified based on whether they contribute to the reproductive isolation before fertilization or after fertilization. Based on these barriers will prevent the reproduction before fertilization or after fertilization. There are mainly three types of reproductive isolating mechanisms. Now we'll see the types. First one is pre-mating isolating mechanism. Second one is post-mating or pre-zygotic or pre-zygotic isolating mechanism. Now the third one is post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Okay, there are three types of reproductive isolating mechanisms based on whether they contribute to the reproductive isolation before the fertilization or after the fertilization. Those three types are: first one is the pre-mating isolating mechanism, second one is post-mating or a pre-zygotic isolating mechanism, third one is post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Now we'll see the one by one. First one, pre-mating isolating mechanism. First one, pre-mating isolating mechanism. Pre-mating isolating mechanism. These mechanisms prevent the mating of potential mates. This pre-mating isolating mechanism, these will prevent mating of potential mates. Now we'll see the types of pre-mating isolating mechanism. Again, types in the pre-mating isolating mechanism. First one is ecological isolation. Ecological isolation. Ecological isolation. Ecological isolation is nothing but occurrence of species in different habitats. Occurrence of species in different habitats within the same geographical area. Will prevent mating between these two species. This will prevent mating between two species. Okay, ecological isolation is one of the pre-mating isolating mechanism where two species occur in a different habitats within the same geographical area. The different habitats will prevent the occurrence in the different habitats will prevent the mating between the two species, which is called as the ecological isolation. Now we'll see the example for this ecological isolation. Example, the two species of garter snakes, garter snakes occurs. They are present in the same geographical area. These are present in same geographical area. The two species of the garter snakes which are present in within the same geographical area, but one lives mainly in water. Among these two, one lives in the water, another lives on the land. See here, the two species of garter snakes which are present within the same geographical area, but one of them living inside the water and another live on the land. That is, this change in the habitat will prevent the mating of these two species. There is no mating as there is a change in habitat. Change in habitat. This will prevent, change in habitat will prevent the mating of these two. Mating of two species. So there is no mating. No mating. This is the ecological isolation. Now we'll see the second type of pre-mating isolating mechanism. That is, second one is temporal isolation. Temporal isolation. This is the isolating mechanism which is caused due to species breed at a different times or are reproductively active at a different time. That is, here the reproductive isolating mechanism involved, that is, species breed at different times or reproductively active at different time or season. Due to change in the breeding time or a reproductively active time in the species, there is no mating takes place. If the two species are reproductively active at a different time or a season, they fail to mate with each other. Now we'll see the example. That is, in North America, the geographic ranges of eastern spotted skunk. One is eastern spotted skunk, that is Spilogale pitorius. Scientific name is Spilogale pitorius. Another one is a western spotted skunk. Western spotted skunk. Scientific name is Spilogale gracilis. These two live in the same geographical area, but there is change in their breeding time. These two reproductively active at a different season or a different time. That is, this Spilogale pitorius, this is reproductively active in late winter. And this one gracilis mate in the late summer. Even though these two species are present within the same geographical area, due to change in their breeding time, that is pitorius that breed during the late winter and gracilis that breed during the late summer, there is no mating takes place between these two species. This is temporal isolation. Now we'll see the third one type of the reproductive isolating, that is pre-mating isolating mechanism, that is behavioral isolation. Third one is behavioral isolation. Behavioral isolation, this prevents the mating between the species due to species engage in a distinct courtship and mating rituals. This is due to species engage in di- distinct courtship and mating rituals. Mating rituals. Courtship behavior is the set of actions and rituals which attract a mate and initiate the reproduction, and this courtship behavior is distinct for all the species. This occurs when the two species have the different mating behaviors or a courtship rituals, so they do not recognize each other as a potential mates. Here in this, behavioral isolation is having the different different courtship behavior courtship behavior. Due to this, species do not recognize each other recognize each other as potential mates as potential mates. Even if they live in the same area and are physically capable of mating, they do not mate because difference in their behavior, that is courtship behavior. Now we'll see the example for the behavioral isolation. Example, that is, birds may have a different songs or a dances that only attract mates of the same species. Birds, they may have a different songs and dances. These can be identified by or attract only the same species. This is the example for the behavioral isolation. Now we'll see the fourth one type of the pre-mating isolating mechanisms, that is the mechanical isolation. Mechanical isolation. It is a type of reproductive isolation where isolation is due to the incompatibility between reproductive organs. Here, this is due to incompatibility between reproductive organs. Incompatibility between reproductive organs. Is it clear? Mechanical isolation, that is a type of reproductive isolation where isolation is due to the incompatibility between reproductive organs. This occurs when the mating is physically impossible due to difference in their reproductive structures. Here the reproduction is prevented due to the change in their reproductive organ structure. Even if the two species attempt to mate, the fertilization cannot occur due to anatomical differences. We'll see the example for this. In case of the insects, like beetles, may have the reproductive organs that only fit with their own species. Insects like beetles. Beetles have a reproductive organs only fit with their own species. And also another example, that is in case of the plants. In plants, the shape of a flower may only allow the pollination by a specific pollinator species. Pollination. In case of the plants, that is pollination, which is species specific, and in case of the insects like beetles, the reproductive organs that only fit with their own species. Here also own species. That means specific pollinator species. Here, specific pollinator species. Only by specific pollinator species. Or own species. Pollination occur by own species. This is about the mechanical isolation, and these four are the types of the pre-mating isolating mechanisms. Next, we'll see the second main type of the reproductive isolating mechanism, that is post-mating but pre-zygotic isolating mechanisms. Post-mating or pre-zygotic isolating mechanism. Isolating mechanism. Post-mating means after mating. Post means after mating. Pre means before zygote formation. Before zygotic means before zygote formation. After fertilization, after mating, before zygote formation. These barriers, these isolating mechanism prevent mating before fertilization. Here, prevent before fertilization. Prevent before fertilization. Before fertilization. Even if mating happens, the fertilization does not take place. This is because sperm of one species may not be able to fertilize the eggs of another species, or the biochemical mechanisms may prevent the sperm from penetrating the membrane surrounding the other species' egg. Here the post-mating or a pre-zygotic isolating mechanisms means these isolating mechanisms will prevent the reproduction before fertilization. That means even if mating happens, there is no fertilization takes place. And the reason for this is sperm of one species may not be able to fertilize the eggs of the another species, or there is a biochemical mechanisms may prevent the sperm from penetrating the membrane surrounding the other species egg. That means the sperm fails to fertilize the egg of other species. In that, there comes the gametic isolation. Gametic isolation. Gametic isolation is nothing but sperm and egg cell are incompatible and cannot fuse even if mating is attempted. Here, sperm and egg cell, they are incompatible. So, no fertilization. So, there is no fertilization takes place even though the mating occurs or a mating attempted. In this mating occurs, sperm may be transferred but there is no zygote formation. In this type of isolating mechanism, there may be mating occurs, sperm may be transformed but there is no zygote formation. No zygote formation. No zygote formation. And the failure of zygote formation, this is mainly due to, this may be due to sperm not surviving in the reproductive tract, sperm not recognizes the egg, or chemical incompatibility between the sperm and egg. The reason for there is no, even though there is mating attempted, there is no zygote formation because there are some reasons that is maybe due to sperm not surviving in the reproductive tract, or sperm not recognizes the egg, or the chemical incompatibility between the sperm and egg. We'll see the example for this. Example for the gametic isolation, that is, in some sea urchins, sperm from one species may be released near the eggs of another species, but due to protein mismatch, there is no fertilization takes place, that is, sea urchin. In case of the sea urchins, in some sea urchins, sperm of one species may be released near the eggs of the another species. That is, sperm of one species is released near the egg of another species. Eggs of another species. Another species. Even though egg and sperms are near together, there is no fertilization takes place due to protein mismatch between egg and sperm of these two species. So due to protein mismatch, there is fertilization does not occur. This is the gametic isolation. Now we'll see the third main type of the reproductive isolating mechanism, that is the post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Post means after. After. Zygotic means after zygote formation. Post-zygotic isolation occurs after fertilization. This occurs after fertilization. Post-zygotic isolating mechanism occurs after fertilization when the sperm has successfully fertilized the egg and a zygote is formed, but it prevents the resulting offsprings from developing properly and surviving or reproducing. We'll see the types of these post-zygotic isolating mechanisms. In that, first one is zygotic mortality. Zygotic mortality. First type of the post-zygotic isolating mechanism, that is zygotic mortality. Here the zygote is formed but it fails to survive or develop into a viable embryo. That is, the zygote dies early in the development, usually due to genetic incompatibility. Here the zygote is formed but fails to survive or develop into a viable embryo. That is, the zygote will die early in the development, usually due to genetic incompatibility. Here what happens? The zygote dies early. The zygote dies early in development. That is due to genetic incompatibility. Due to genetic incompatibility. This is the zygotic mortality. The second one type of the post-zygotic isolating mechanism, that is hybrid inviability. Hybrid inviability. In this hybrid inviability, development of the zygote proceeds normally. The hybrid produced, but this hybrid does not survive. Here what happens? Development of the zygote proceeds. Normal development of zygote. zygote for development occurs normally. Hybrid produced, hybrid it produced, hybrid produced, but this hybrid does not survive. But this hybrid does not survive. Does not survive. Hybrid offsprings have reduced survival due to genetic incompatibility between the parents. These hybrids have a reduced hybrids having a reduced viability, reduced survival or viability, that is due to genetic incompatibility between parents. That is due to genetic incompatibility between parents. Genetic incompatibility between parents. This is the second type of post-zygotic isolating mechanism. Now comes to the third one type, that is hybrid sterility. Hybrid sterility. Sterility, that is nothing but the incapable of producing fertile offsprings. The hybrid is produced, but it is healthy but sterile. That means it is not having ability to produce a fertile offspring. Here what happens? The hybrid produced, it is healthy but sterile. Sterile means incapable of producing fertile offsprings. Now the last type of the post-zygotic isolating mechanism, that is hybrid breakdown. Hybrid breakdown. Hybrid breakdown. That is, in this type of isolating mechanism, the first generation hybrids may be viable and fertile, but the subsequent generations show reduced fertility or they are sterile. Here, F1 generation, first generation hybrids, they are viable and fertile, but subsequent generation like F2 generation, they are having reduced fertility, or they may be sterile. This is about the hybrid breakdown.